India is booming right now because in US there's a lot of shortage of CPAs. USCPA poles apart from what CA works.
Okay.
There might be interlapping of concepts in terms of audit and accounts, but
Okay.
Most importantly, there are no three levels.
Hi everybody, welcome to our next episode. Today I have with me CA SAI KARAN. He's my friend from class 10 and we share about 15 years of history together. We did our CA together and today we both are qualified chartered accountants. It's immense pleasure for me to host him on our podcast. Hi Sai.
Hey Karthik.
Yeah. So Sai Karan today heads India operations where almost 50 people work under Sai Karan. He heads Berger CPA first operations in India where they work with US clients in US. I'm hoping I'm right, Sai.
Yeah, absolutely correct.
Could you share about what you do in Berger first?
So, long story short, we work in three different areas. It's basically same as a CA firm would do.
Okay.
Audit, tax, and accounting. We do this mostly for the US clients, and it's pretty standard. You know how the laws are different in different countries, so we only work on the US clients.
Super. So today we're going to discuss more about USCPA because more CAs in India, CA students don't know much about USCPA, and since you actually work with clients in US and you know about the course, so quickly let me get started, Sai. CA we have three levels: foundation, inter, final, and we have four subjects here and 6. How is it in USCPA? How is the course structured?
So USCPA poles apart from what CA works.
Okay.
There might be interlapping of concepts in terms of audit and accounts, but most importantly, there are no three levels.
Okay.
There's straightforward 4 papers.
Okay.
It's regulation, audit, and then you have the financial reporting, and finally you have the Beck paper, which has been evolved now into 3 more compartments, of which you can choose what you want. And it all involves this costing concepts, and some it's related to the systems audit and all that stuff.
So basically, there are just 4 papers I have to pass to become a US CPA. That's it.
Yep.
Okay, so how long does the course take? For example, CA takes somewhere between 4 to 5 years and longer for attempts. But how long does this course take?
See, once you start this course, it depends on you basically. You can finish it as quickly as 6 months.
Okay.
And you can take as much as time you want. The limitation of time comes into picture once you clear your first paper. The exemption for that paper lasts for around 18 months. So it's advisable to finish the rest of the 3 papers within that 18 months. But just in case you miss it for some unforeseen circumstances, you can always write only the paper that has elapsed, not all of them.
So it's more like if I have paper A, B, C, D, the day I finish A, I have to finish B, C, D within the next 18 months.
Yep.
Okay, and if I don't finish B, C, D within 18 months, and if time is expired, A will be relapsed, I can continue write, B, C, D passes then, I just write A again.
Yeah.
Okay, so in simple terms, can I say within a span of 18 months, I have to finish all the 4?
Right, you're right.
Got it. So is there any exam schedule? Because in CA we have 3 attempts now, Jan, September and your May attempt. So you can write only in those attempts and for final you have November. Is it like this a schedule or you can write whenever you want?
See, that's one of the good things about CPA. The flexibility is amazing.
Okay.
You can choose to write whenever you want to.
Okay.
They have a schedule for every, like almost in a month they will be testing all over the week.
Oh,
it happens very frequently and the results come out for I think every 4 months once. They put together all the results together and leave it out in the 5th or 6th month.
Okay.
So writing exams is not a problem, but results take time.
Okay, so I can schedule my exam whenever I want.
Yep.
So do you have an option of rescheduling exam in CPA?
Yep. So what happens is sometimes they give you an option. I think it's like a day or 2 before. Until then, you have the option with a nominal fee for you to reschedule your exam to another day. So that would help a lot in case you feel that you're not gonna.
I mean that's great. Like if I'm scared, if I'm not prepared well, I can reschedule my exam. But the whole idea is within 18 months I finish these 4 papers.
Yep.
Superb. So a little bit more about the course. What is the eligibility for CA? It's like you finish 12th or you're a BCom graduate. What is the eligibility for USCPA?
See, to write the exam, you need 120 credits. Okay. This credit comes from various subjects of commerce and finance.
Okay.
You need to have your exposure in that, like in terms of education and training. So what happens is to write your exams, different states have their requirements.
Okay.
But predominantly for us, since it's being an outside country and we want to write it in the US, it's 120 credits. And typically, if you have a BCom and an MCom, not just a CA student, but for anybody for the matter of fact, you have a BCom and an MCom, you're good to write an exam.
Got it. So can I say BCom and MCom is more valued in USCPA than CA?
You can say that way.
Yeah. Okay, so the eligibility for a BCom is more than a CA in terms of credits.
In terms of credits, yeah.
Got it.
So let's take my example, right? When I applied for exams, so we need 120 credits to write, like I said before. So I got around 90 credits from an BCom from Madras University. It was correspondence, and I got around 30 for my CA inter certificate, and around 40 points, 40 credits for CA final. So it came around to 160. It usually requires 120 to write the exam and 150 for the licensure. What happens is when you want to do the licensure, sometimes people fall short of it. They allow you to do bridge courses depending on the states to bridge that gap that you have, or you can choose to do an MBA or an MCom to fill that gap.
Got it.
Whatever works for you.
Okay, so my learning is you need 120 credits to write the exam and 150 to practice.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say, for example, that means my learning is if I'm not a CA itself or not even pursuing CA, with just BCom and some bridge courses, I can do USCPA.
Right, right. You need a UG and a PG basically, to put it in simple terms.
Okay, so that means just to add on, I think you addressed it, but I can do USCPA in parallel as a CA student, or I can do it after finishing CA also.
Right, right. Like I said, anybody who wants to do it, CA is a good course to do.
Okay.
CA students, it gives you that flexibility. You take my example, see, I was able to get that 150 credits with no pain.
Got it.
Because I didn't have to focus on any other thing because of clearing CA final. So that's a benefit you get for finishing CA.
Yeah. Just an add-on question since you spoke about it. If I finish CA with an all India rank, do I get any exemption in any paper in US CPA?
I don't think so.
No, not that. Okay. So you have to write all the 4 papers. So you spoke about states. From what I know, little knowledge, let's say I finish my CA in Tamil Nadu, India, I can practice anywhere in the country.
Right.
But I know in US it's like if I clear in one particular state, let's say Arizona, I can practice only over there or I can't practice in other states. Can you throw more light on this?
See, every country works in different ways of judicial system they have and how they structure their judicial system. US has its own way of doing it. And see, work, when you talk about can I work as a CPA in any of the states? Yes, you can work. But the question comes, can you attest anything? When it comes to the attestation process, you can only attest the documents in the state in which you have license for. And for taxes is basically governed by IRS, which is like our income tax in India, and that's a central system. So anywhere in the country you can do whatever you want in terms of taxes if you're a CPA. But when it comes to audit or any other attestation engagement that you take up, you need to have license in that particular state to attest a particular document.
So why is it like that? Why are they restricting you to work only in that particular state when it comes to licensing?
See, they manage their own state legislation in a different way to keep the business within the state, and it works well for them that way. To concentrate the economies and the businesses, they try to keep it that way. And simpler to regulate because when you diversify the number of people working around the country in a different 52 sections of the country, it becomes a lot easier for them to regulate the ethics and the independence of those people.
And also more opportunities for everybody.
And it's also like you said, it diversifies the opportunities for everybody.
So that's excellent. I don't know if that will come to CA in India, but that's great. So little more about this course. How much is the cost of doing this course?
If you're a self-study person, you can finish this course in probably 3.5 lakhs. And why 3.5 lakhs is basically, see, there are 2 steps in registering for exam. It's not like, it's very similar to CA, but not exactly the same because we apply for a hall ticket and all that stuff. Before that, we register, right? So the same thing happens here. Here, you do something called you register for the exam, and they give you something called notice to schedule. This notice to schedule is something that you get right before you want to write your exam. For each subject, I think it costs around 28 to 35,000 rupees in Indian value each subject. And then when you write exam, you have to pay another few thousands, like 30-40,000 to write the exam because you're writing the exam in India. Since COVID and right before COVID is when it came here, earlier you had to either travel to Dubai or US to write an exam. Now since you're able to write it in India, these prometric centers charge a good amount fee for you to host the exams here. So you have to pay that for each subject. So let's take, we're talking about a 30 here and a 40 here, 70K a subject, and you're talking about 4 subjects. So almost 2.8 lakhs, 3 lakhs it comes to. And if you choose to do a course with someone, like there are a lot of private institutions that take care of this, they will charge another lakh or so inclusive of GST, probably 1.2 lakhs. That comes to 4.2. So in total 4.5 lakhs with private coaching and probably 3.5 without private coaching.
Well, that's great. That's not very high amount. I thought US CPA, it's US, it will cost 10-15 lakhs. But numbers are very similar to CA. I think CA also cost 2 to 3 lakhs overall with your classes. Little higher on the higher side than CA, but that's great.
Yeah, but there is one catch. You screw up once, you spend another 60-70,000 again.
Okay, so for every attempt, or like every attempt, it's another extra 60,000. Yeah. Okay, that's
very important to make note of. Which what makes this course costly.
Got it. So if you plan well, you can finish it off with
Yeah.
that cost. Now, Sai, cost is fine, but most people would want to know how much income can I earn if I do USCPA. For example, if I finish CA as a fresher in India, my salary would be in the range of 8 to 10 lakhs as a fresher, and after that depends on how good you are at work.
Right.
How is it in USCPA?
See, USCPA, it depends on where you want to take your stance as a fresher, right?
Okay.
The obvious route is a lot of people who want to work in big fours. So it's the easiest and the straightforward route, and that would probably get you somewhere close to what CA would get, but a little bit lesser, not as close as what a CA would get. And again, it depends on how your interview goes. See, these bands exist to standardize a lot of things, but you won't believe it. Any fresher that I've interviewed recently, we never go by band. It depends on what the quality that guy brings into the table. So sometimes if you think beyond this industry standard, you might actually cross it as a fresher itself. So it's about the value as the personality you bring in, and obviously the ticket is the course that you finish.
So just the learning from what you've said. So after finishing US CPA, I can work in India or I can work in US.
Oh yeah, so addressing that point. So when you talk about that, you can work from India for US. That's one way of doing it, because as such, Indian government is not going to help you anyway, because there's no laws mandating a CPA to work on anything. But US government mandates it. So any kind of work you do in India is a work that you have to do from what is sourced out of US. So if you want, the only difference is going to be the location, whether you work from here or you work from the US. When you work from the US as a fresher is going to be literally very hard, unless and until you're a US citizen. I don't think any of the entities are going to sponsor you the visa to go there and work. But if you want to work, the easiest option is to go study there, look for a job and do it. For that, you don't need a CPA. You can just do a master's in any kind of course that helps you to get a visa there. But when it comes to India, you start here. India is booming right now because in US there's a lot of shortage of CPAs. A lot of people, old people have retired. There's a lot of shortage of CPAs in the US. So if you see, India's biggest hub for CPAs is Gujarat. Okay, they are picking up a lot of work of mediums to small size CPAs from the US and doing it here, and they're employing hundreds and thousands of. It's not just CPAs, CA inter people, CA final students. A lot of people are being employed that way. So the opportunity in India is humongous because of the fact that they started trusting us a lot nowadays, and the exposure is also quite high.
Okay, that's great. So it's like after I finish US CPA, most people work from India and serve clients in US.
Yeah.
But you can also go and work in US, but it depends on your visa and your visa approval.
Yeah, and you start your career here probably 10 years down the line. If you're very good enough, probably even 5 years down the line, you can obviously your team's going to push you for an engagement or an assignment there. So, and again, after you go there, you impress the people there, they're going to want you to be there.
Got it, got it. Makes sense. So when I'm working from India, I can expect salaries similar to CA fresher.
Yeah.
But if you get to go to US, the pay is, I mean, like it's going
Yeah,
to be
it's going to be as standard as what it should be there.
what should be there. Oh, that's
You will
great.
probably, I can give you a ballpark number, like probably a 1 to 3 year experience CPA in US gets $50,000 annual package. That put you probably comes to close to 40 to 45 lakhs per annum.
Got it. Got it. I mean, that's great. That's a great start to work in US. I mean, thank you, Sai, to throw light upon how the US CPA course is. So let's get into your CA journey. I know it closely because we studied together. Because you're close to me, I'm going to ask this. How long did it take for you to get done with CA, if you're comfortable sharing?
Okay, so quite a bit time. I would say probably I spent my late teens and early 20s in getting this course done. But it was obviously not the first time I was able to clear. It took me a couple of attempts, probably 3, 4, I would say. But it was a brilliant journey as such. When I look back, obviously it was pretty hectic and strenuous. But when I look back, the experiences that I've had because of that fourth, not even because of the educational front, but more about from the life front, right? The experiences that I've got, it put me in a spot where I knew exactly that when I'm thrown down completely, I'm going to have the ability to like come back again. So it was a good thing that way.
I remember the journey. I mean, we studied together for a few years. So I know how hard it was. It was very hard for me. But I remember how you handled that part.
Yeah.
You just spoke about how hectic it was. So in that phase where it took a little longer time, how did you manage your mental health or the stress around these exams?
So the key to this is very simple, right? I mean, when you go home, you don't, let's say that today is the day where I get my results and I don't clear it for some obvious reason. You go home and you're upset. It's clear that you're given into the fact that you failed. And you know how our parents usually work. I'm not stereotyping parents in general, but then most of the parents, they start thinking what went wrong with this guy. He didn't study enough. He was taking too much breaks. He was just loitering away and all that stuff. So my first thing was to get away from all those. So I managed to make sure I showed a very brave face in front of my parents, saying that yeah, I didn't study much. So I confronted what happened. I told them I'll try best the next time. So there's no scope for them to even pinpoint anything against me. Like I agreed, this is my fault. I'm here. I'm going to do it better next time.
So you told them before the results what's going to come.
No, no, after the results. But then you need courage to do that, right? I mean, to accept what you want, because you know they're going to rail down on you anyway.
Yes. I still remember one thing you told me, Sai, when both of us couldn't make it. I also didn't clear in my first attempt. I took few attempts.
Yeah.
At that time, my future was very uncertain for us, and I was very scared as to what will happen next. This was, I think, 10 years back, and you told me one journey about a boat, which actually every time in this last 10 years, when I think about what's going to happen next in my future, that story is something which actually still inspires me. I think it would be nice if you can share from your side to everybody.
See, a lot of times we get consumed in a lot of things, but we forget one main thing. While we are praying for something to happen in life, we are already living in an answered one. Like when you talk about a prayer, you pray for something bigger, but we forget that we are actually living in an answered prayer already. Did I think that I'm going to do a podcast with you? No. But it would have been a prayer for someone, like at least at this generation people know what podcast is and all that. I have no clue about it because I don't come from that generation, but it is a big deal for me, like to come and talk and all that stuff, because right now I'm preaching my life experience. It's a medium, so it's always important to appreciate what you have at that moment. So that's what exactly I did at that moment. Like what happened was there's nothing, that boat story or what you spoke about, there's nothing going on good in my life. It was like in the past 2 years felt very stable. Like it was like a monotonous thing. You go to the institute, you join classes, you try to do it, and you bunk classes. You pay money for it, but you don't attend it because obvious reasons that you don't have the motivation to go there. But when that happened, there's something that happened parallelly was a lot of opportunities started hitting me. Like I felt, okay, I'm not doing anything. Why don't I try something at my workplace? Which is when I came up, I got this opportunity where I'm working right now, and I thought, why am I suddenly finding this opportunity out of nowhere when nothing's going right? Right? It's a small thing. So that's why I said, like, it was like I was probably swaying in the ocean, like with no objective, no hopes or nothing. And that was a boat that came and took me the way I should be. So I grabbed it. There was only boat available, not like I had options. So I just picked it up and it took me in the right direction. If I sit today and think back and say I could have done better, yeah, obviously I could have done, but that was the best option available at that moment, that I was able to come here and think about it again. So it still is a very surreal thing that I was able to come through it. But I always believe in confronting the problems and being in denial, which helps me cut through the chase and solve it at the first go. So that's how I've coped with all my problems, not just CA, but any kind of problem. It's always cutting to the chase and acknowledging your part of the problem in every problem.
But I still remember a story, just to rephrase, and how I remember when you told me in Marina Beach when we were talking there after we both failed in our final exams, where you said we don't have many opportunities, and one opportunity you got was that the firm where you're currently working. You just got onto that boat, and then you just didn't care. You just went where the firm took you, and you're right here. So I think if people get opportunities, just take it on and sail along the way, and don't think about I missed some other opportunity. I mean that is something that was inspiring for me, Sai. So I want to talk about it.
Definitely, Kanti.
So to proceed further, Sai, just few more questions. When we were in school, all of us friends together from class 8, we went to class 9 together, 11 to 12 together, hardly anybody failed. But in CA, our juniors become our seniors or our peers become our seniors. When we look around, we start comparing and we start feeling insecure. Both of us felt that. How did you handle that?
I'm sorry. I think I would be one of the exceptions that I failed in ninth also, so it's not a big deal.
Okay.
The fact that I don't know if you remember, there was this phase where our English teacher got too crazy that she wanted us to give 25 marks objective questions in all the English literatures. And that exam, I didn't study anything in this literature, so it was all objectives. You see, English is usually you write a lot. At least you get to clear the paper, but this was like a straightforward objective. It's wrong, it's wrong. So I probably would have got 1.5 in that out of 25. So failure is not new. That's what I want to establish here. But coming to the point that you said, how did I take the fact that people going ahead of me, they deserved it. That's it. That was the biggest thing that I told myself. I didn't put enough effort. It didn't happen. So they deserve it. They have to move on. But am I going to like sit and look at it and constantly say, how did they go and how didn't I go? It's not going to help. So
Yeah.
I always told anybody who moves forward in life, they deserve it. Whether it's the effort or luck, they deserved it for a reason. So you have to always acknowledge that.
Yeah, you have to be happy for that
Yeah.
person. That's I mean that's something most people don't acknowledge. They keep comparing as to why I'm not going ahead instead of being happy for the other person. I've seen you do that, so I wanted to talk to you more about that.
Yeah.
And last couple of questions, we both are getting close to our 30s now, but I know how our last decade, how our 20s was. Any advice you want to give to your early 20-year-old self?
No, stay course. Like I said, I don't want to change anything. I want to stay the course. Stay the course. Do not change your course for any other reason. Because where I am today is because of who I was back then, and I want to hold on to it tight because I know that I've not exhausted all the benefits of that experience right now because I see that I'm already like the responsibilities I have pretty wide for my age at my organization, but the depth comes from that 3 years of my exam preparation, articleship, managing all of those things. The depth comes from there. So I would never want to change anything of it. And I would always tell myself to stay the course on where I was, and I would continue to do it the same exact way every single time.
So even if you had a time, like an opportunity to time travel and go back to the past, you're not going to change any of what happened.
Yeah, I mean, if you're asking back to 10 years, yeah, maybe some small things, but at 20s, no, definitely not.
Getting back to our 20s, I'm sure most people, students who are watching are in their early 20s, and we have a lot of distractions. Just apart from studies, we have social media, relationships, and so many distractions. I've had plenty, and you had plenty as well. But I remember in that last decade when we were friends, most of us in our circle used to reach out to you because you were a level-headed person and you didn't let distractions take over you, like how you did for me, at least in the early 20s. So how did you stay level-headed throughout?
See, sometimes it's all about like you put on a brave face for everything, right? And you keep doing it, it becomes you sometimes. Nowadays, people say that it's not good for your own mental health, but it's okay. Sometimes different things work for different people. You just have to adapt to it and keep moving. And most importantly, why I was able to do that for our friends is because who else is going to do it if I don't do it at that moment, right? I was forced to that responsibility at that moment. But same thing as my job. When I joined, I was a data entry. There's nobody to pick up the mantle, so I had to pick up. So if you see the all life defining moments in my life, I was thrown at the responsibility and I was forced to take it up. And I think that's my motivation. So I try to put myself like that. Nowadays, I've made sure that I put myself in places where I have to push myself to get that responsibility ahead and get it solved. So I think that's how it just happened. I don't know if there was another person like me in the gang, probably I wouldn't have stepped up, right?
There had to be someone.
Yeah, there had to be someone. So it is what it is. By nature, it just happens.
Superb, Sai. So just one last personal question. You're married now.
Yeah.
How's your married life?
I mean, it's been 2 years. It's different. I mean, it's completely different to come away from your regular routine and all that, managing with work. But it's been beautiful to be able to have someone with you, look out for you unconditionally, no matter how screwed up you do things. Like you forget basic stuffs, like when they ask you to bring something, you forget that, and how they manage the next day because you couldn't bring it up. And I live in a joint family right now, so I can sense it. Right, when I screw up, it just nobody's going to blame me. They're going to blame her for sure. So and how she manages that and all that is pretty brilliant because she's known me for what 2.5 3 years now, and putting everything aside just for me, I don't know if I could do that for someone, but the fact that she's doing it pushes me to be a lot more better person and definitely helps to be grounded.
Superb. I mean, like, any advice you want to give people who are going to get married or are scared about marriage from your side?
Do it if you want to.
I mean, that's a simple
Yeah,
one
do,
liner.
do it if you want to. I mean, there's no compulsion that you have to be married. If that doesn't work for you, stay away from it. It saves a lot of energy for everybody. But if you're someone who believes in that institution, do it at the right time.
Perfect. Thank you, Sai. It was great having you over here. Thank you so much.
And definitely, Karthik, it's my pleasure to be with you. And like you said, I've seen you grow in your field in a lot of avenues as well, be it your Mind and Company initiative, be it your classes. And I probably would have been his first or second student for him in when he started off his coaching career, and definitely helped the costing classes that we've had on standard costing and marginal costing. It will always be a good memory for us. And that's when Swiggy also came out, right? We used to probably scam
Swiggy.
No, I think you should edit this out. But yeah, but definitely I would really appreciate what he's done to me when I was studying. Unconditionally, it helped me in certain areas, and I'm always grateful to that, Karthik. And I wish you the best in everything you do.
Thank you, sir. You've been very kind, but I wasn't a teacher back then. We were just friends studying together.
Yeah.
And that's about it.
But probably the beginning of everything.
Yes, that's what inspired me to teach more.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
All the best, Karthik.